cats?
Yeah. That's in the book, huh? The good book.
Yeah. Everybody, it's time for a couple of words from our favorite prim and proper Pram, Emily Post. Cats. In some ways, cats present different problems, for they are taken visiting far less often. When your cat has the run of the neighborhood, however, you may have to take steps to see that he does not become an inadvertent but regular visitor to the house of someone who once innocently set out a saucer of milk in the kitchen, only to find the cat perched between the Dresden figurines on the mantel. It is perfectly proper, before the accident has a chance to occur, to ask your neighbors not to feed your pet, as the bad habit is hard to break and can easily become a neighborhood problem. In your own house, you may be quite accustomed to having your cat jump into your lap without warning, but remember that your guest probably isn't. Not only will there be a suit or dress covered with hairs and possibly snagged, there may be a broken teacup or a burned carpet as a result of the natural and involuntary start of surprise. Until you know your visitor well, the burned carpet must be from a cigarette. Yeah. It is far safer to put Fluffy securely in another room and in no way unkind to your pet, for very likely you are saving him from the discipline his overenthusiasm deserves. Some people, of course, have real aversions to all cats, even the best behaved, and you should no more force Fluffy's presence on them than you would force crab meat on a guest who is allergic to it.
Sounds like she's of the tolerate but never fully embrace.
Yeah, there's like a
cat ownership.
There's like 2 full pages on a dog and half a page on cats, but this was a different time.
Yeah, because a dog would never break anything.
Yeah, cats were witchcraft.
Welcome to Cool and Unusual Punishment. This is our cool and unusual podcast. My name is Tyler.
Go.
Joining me is my lovely fiance, Jodie. How are you?
I'm great now. Having some drinks. There's no kids here.
We had a very kid-filled weekend.
Yeah. We have twins half the time. And this weekend was one of the worst fucking weekends we've had with them. One of them is sick. And I don't like the whole man cold thing. Like, I've not really experienced that with you, like this whole you're completely incapacitated if you get a small cold. But there is a certain whiny helplessness that developed over this weekend in which I was woken up at all hours just so that I knew that he was awake, and I could barely go to the bathroom by myself, and they're almost 9 years old. And pretty much by today, I wanted to punt them at the school when I dropped them off. I couldn't get out of here fast enough. It was just really bad. So anyway, the kids were a bummer, but I'm having some whiskey. I'm having some beer. This episode of Cool and Unusual Punishment brought to you by Evan Williams Honey Whiskey. Evan Williams, when you're looking for some whiskey and you don't want to spend a lot of money.
And it comes in that 175 that you really want.
Yeah, but it doesn't have grippers on it. You know, like I want there to be like grippers on it. And I guess that's not classy. It's like Phillips vodka.
The finger mold, so you can...
Yeah, I think...
A slammer mold.
I mean, it's just easier to hold when I'm pouring it, is all. So I have to briefly talk about... Nobody listening knows about this guy, but you're going to know about him right now, okay? So I work at the bookstore on campus at the university, and there's this guy that has come in repeatedly to get books for physics courses in which we do not yet have the books because the professors have not yet told us which books we're supposed to put out. And this guy has the time to come in pretty much every day. And he's the guy who wears the cloth purple cape. And the first time I saw him...
I don't want to hate this guy. I really want to.
I know. I want it to be like, hey, you know what? This guy's whimsical. I I want to embrace the fact that he's like, I just want to wear this cape and I don't give a shit. He's like in his 50s for however that affects it. And the cape is like, it looks like something that if Linus on Peanuts were older and like wanted to continue with the blanket thing, but make it slightly more sophisticated, it kind of looks like a purple faded like beach towel that's been turned into a cape. Anyway, so it's not like a cool cape. It's not like a something you would see at a con or something. It's like really crappy and dirty because he wears it everywhere. I know this because, well, also the first time he came in, I thought he was like some sort of master of like.
It's not a cape you would get from your father, Kal-El. Right before he jettisons you to Earth.
Yeah,
Okay, gotcha.
It's not like that. It's not. And he came in, and I just was not having to interact with him. So I only saw him from a distance. And I truly thought he was one of the people involved in the graduation ceremonies on campus that like, there's like this guy who has this big staff. And that's who I thought he was.
For the record, having been to your graduation, the guy with the staff, like...
In the beret.
It being a graduation ceremony doesn't make it less insane what is happening.
I don't understand what that is. And he had like a big floppy kind of beret hat on.
And no one's laughing. No one's like, oh, here comes the SNL skit or something.
Yeah, and I don't remember that. But anyway, this guy, he looks like an aged like an 80s hair metal guy. He has like long hair, but he's got like a really rough face. It's like a very square jawline, and he just looks like he's really lived, So I finally had to deal with him because my coworker was, my coworker was like, I can't talk to this guy anymore, So I dealt with him and we figured out most of the stuff he needed. Anyway, I get a message from her and she's like, Cape Guy is at CVS. And he just wears this. I thought maybe it was just on campus, like kind of like a quasi safe environment for,
expression.
Yeah, it's like an old white guy.
Yeah, like you're going to college at an older age and you want to have the college experience of experimenting, finding out who you are, like getting a cape.
Yeah, and like, how some people just decide like this is going to be my thing. Like there was always a guy on campus who wore shorts all year long. Did you have one of those at Stout?
I would say that's not just a person, it's like a genre of men who, well, I don't know what they all have in common, but the men I knew who did it weren't like, this is who I am, I'm a shorts guy. It's like they have never considered that there are pants in the world.
Okay.
And so the winter, like no matter how cold it gets, it's like, why aren't you wearing pants? Like, well, what do you mean? Like, I have a bunch of shorts. Like, I don't, like, it doesn't register as an option.
Yeah. And like, I'm trying to think of how intentional, like for me, like the cowboy boots thing was, like wearing cowboy boots.
Was that you finding out who you are?
I don't know. I don't know what, I'm not sure, like.
That's why I want to like this guy, because at that age to be wearing a cape, it makes it feel like it's not, like a fashion statement, that comes and goes, like at that age, I feel like if he's got the cape, like he's decided for whatever reason, this is a thing he's going to do and it's not a phase.
Yeah. Yes. And I want to really try to embrace the fact that most of us, to some extent, even when we say we don't, like you sort of navigate life like caring about stuff that I have to believe at some point you come to a realization more and more with age that you just don't live for very long. So who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you just kind of to some extent need to just do whatever you want and not care about it because, like, you know, you're just not around for very long. So I want to be like that, but he's so irritating and it makes it so hard. And also just like, I feel like it's on those like Queer Eye or one of these shows when, and I don't mean to want the whole podcast to be about this, but like, I feel like sometimes that becomes like, oh, if I wear the cape that deflects from anything else.
Yeah, no one's going to say
grabs like as a critique, you know?
No one's going to be like, oh, that guy with the weird teeth. They're going to be like the guy with the cape.
Yeah, right. You know, it's like by default, like if somebody describes me, it's like the girl with all of the tattoos or like the big red hair. Right. So like it doesn't ever get really any deeper than that, you know? So I don't know if that's part of it.
I mean, I don't personally experience that, so...
as you stroke your mustache.
Nobody has made a comment on this mustache, by the way. Not a single person has been like, hey, so a mustache, huh? Like, nobody.
None of your friends even? Yeah, but I mean, you've made Facebook posts about it, so there's kind of an understanding, you know? The cape thing, I know he has to come back one more time. And then I just wonder, is this person okay? How do you have this much time? But he's taking like high.
So what is he doing when he comes in before the books are ready? Is he doing cape work?
No, and he wears it like over jackets.
My instinct is to say bad choice, but then I guess if you're a guy who,
how else
the cape is part of you, it's like, oh, I bet he went to put the coat on. And he's like, well, is the cape going to be under the coat? That doesn't make sense. But
then if he goes to class, I don't know how
you get the coat off.
Yeah, like without taking.
Well, if he deserves that cape, I bet he knows how to do that.
Yeah. What he's doing is
over like a winter coat, like a.
Yeah, do you know how weird it looks to have somebody come in wearing like a puffy jacket with a cape over it and then just like a winter hat, just like everything else?
And he's never commented on, he's never offered up like, I know what you're thinking.
No. And as a matter of fact, last semester when I first started, I came down the stairs and I saw somebody walking out of the bookstore. And I thought to myself, did that person have a cape on? And I thought, there's no way. And oh my God, my favorite employee at the bookstore right now is somewhat new. And she's working upstairs with me right now. And she says, I was like, oh my God, I hope the cape guy doesn't come in again today because I just don't have the patience. Because what he wants is, how it works is professors have to tell us the books that we are to put out for classes. We either have to order those books or they're books that are just textbooks that get used regularly or routinely or once a year or whatever. Well, there are certain departments that for whatever reason are having a very hard time getting their shit together and telling us, hey, you know that physics book from astrophysics or whatever for the 450 class, like the numbered 450 class, like a high level, we need you to put those out for spring. And here's the information you put on the tag. We haven't gotten that for some reason from many departments, physics being one of them. So this guy wants to like be prepared a month ahead of time for his classes and keeps coming back thinking that like magically overnight, we're going to have this all updated. And it does not go that fast. And so he just keeps showing up every day and we keep explaining to him, you know? So I was like telling this employee of mine that I'm like, I really hope he doesn't come in. I'm just tired and I don't have the energy. And she's like, he's got a cape on. And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, oh my God, I was on the bus on Halloween and I was talking to my friend who was asking me, in the morning, hey, do you want to, when you get done with your first class, we should like dress up kind of fun or something for our classes so that we can just go to she's in some diversity club or something like that. Okay. So they're having some party and she's like, I don't want she's on the phone on the bus, like, I don't want to walk around dressed up. And then she's like, oh, wait, there's a guy ahead of me with a cape on. So maybe people are just dressing up in regular life on the bus. And it was him. And then she was like feeling awful because she like identified him like verbally right in his presence, and he was dressed up for Halloween. And she was like, she realized, she was like, oh, I think this guy's not dressed up for Halloween. He's just wearing the cape, you know?
Yeah, but you can't be the guy who wears the cape and then be like, oh, somebody commented on my cape. I'm so embarrassed.
Yeah, or like, don't people know this is, especially on Halloween.
This is who I am.
This is not a costume, you know? So I don't know how that all started, but that's just one of the, like, as my main boss at work calls them, bookstore pets. Whether or not you like the pet, it's your pet, and they keep coming back. And it's better than his pet, who was a girl that would leave the bookstore and instantly start like talking on a pretend phone.
Is there any way you can be our traumatizing on the ground? Can you get answers from this guy? Or would that be too like traumatizing to a work environment that he comes into? Well,
I mean, I feel like a part of me knows that I'm not shy. And so maybe I could just say, tell me more about the cape.
Yeah.
Now that feels like a very good way to do it.
Because it feels like he would either be like, oh, I love talking about it, obviously.
Yeah.
Or it's like, it was his mom's cape and she died. And like if you ask about it, you're triggering something very personal. Oh. I think it'll go one of two ways. Yeah, you'll be fine. But you're also the most like, if I had a weird thing about me, well, no, you're probably the best person to ask. I was going to say, if I was self-conscious, I wouldn't want the pretty girl at the bookstore asking me about it. But it's not like, you don't put a cape on and then feel self-conscious about the cape.
Yeah, I'm also not conventional, you know. So, like, I'm not necessarily not without my own
cape.
Little... Right.
That's my first genuine joke of the night. I'm ready to start the podcast.
I haven't even been thinking about it, but you're the one who has to do that stuff. Who's going to go first?
I think I should go first.
Yeah, I think you should.
I want to take you all the way back. Well, the story starts in 1988 with a channel called VH1.
VH1.
VH1 is struggling for ratings at the time. Apparently, it's been going on for a long time. And so they want to do this publicity stunt, this big, grandiose kind of stunt that will pull in viewers and raise money. And they enlist the help of this guy, a TV producer named Jim Cahill. He's a freelance TV producer, and they go to him with this
freelance. Jim
Cahill, he comes up with this idea while he's in traffic. He's sitting in traffic in LA. And he looks over and he sees a Corvette and he thinks, God damn, it's 1988. People love Corvettes. How about this? How about we do a stunt where we give away 36 vintage Corvettes. One for every year of Corvette's 3.5 decade history from 1988 going back to 53, something like that.
Okay.
Minus 1983 or something when they didn't make a Corvette. But he wants to give away one car from each year, 36 cars in total, to one person. That's going to be the contest, right? And
well, I mean,
which is an awesome idea because who wouldn't want 36 cars spanning 3.5 decades?
What would you even do with them?
Well, you're going to find out because it's not a bad question to ask. What do you do with this many cars?
I don't even know if somebody in the 80s was really... I don't know if the 80s was even like when people were into vintage. Do you know what I mean by that? Right. But anyway, okay.
So they sign off on this idea, and so Jim Cahill, he goes around the country for several months in 1988. He scours the country to find cars, to find Corvettes of every year. And he ends up spending $610,000 of VH1's money, and he finds the cars, and they're not all collectors, pristine, never driven models. He finds drivable cars from every year.
I would not even enter this contest.
Some of them are automatic transmissions, which I'm told is like if you're buying a Corvette from 65, you don't want an automatic.
Yeah.
But so this is not your showroom Corvettes. These are technically drivable Corvettes, and I have some supplementary material. I have some pictures of the ad they ran. So
okay, well that looks pretty cool.
So
I mean, this is really weird.
Yeah, no, it's weird. So the contest works like this. You call this 900 number. It's a $2 phone call to enter the sweepstakes. And AT&T gets like 50 cents. And then VH1 gets $1.50. And the sweepstakes itself works out really good. They get like 1.5 million contestants. They recoup their money in like a couple weeks. It goes over really well. And at the end of this contest, they pick a winner. And it's this guy named Dennis Amadeo. Amadeo? Dennis Amadeo.
Amadeo. Oh, I'm a winner. I am Dennis Amadeo.
I'm a winner. Dennis Amadeo. He's a carpenter from Long Island.
Oh boy, this is a classic. This is a classic rags to riches story.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm just a carpenter on Long Island.
No, I got 36 Corvettes. I can't find parking for one car.
My wife's gonna kill me.
So he wins the contest, and the celebration, the ceremony they have for him, they fly him out to Culver City, and they have Mike Love, you might know as the ex-Beach Boy.
Oh God, that's not even like the most famous Beach Boy.
They have
Brian Wilson would be cooler.
They have Mike Love hand to Dennis Amadeo a 5-pound bag of keys. Here's your keys.
Shut up. How did you? This is a really great story. It's so dumb.
So he gets his keys, and Amadeo returns to Long Island with
yeah, how does he get them home?
He goes back to Long Island, and he's awaiting like the delivery of all these cars.
Okay, so they're gonna do that part at least.
And before he really has time to kind of do anything or think about what he's gonna do with all these cars, he gets a phone call from a man named Peter Max, who has requested a meeting with him in New York City to discuss a deal to buy the cars. Are you familiar with Peter Max?
Is it like Max Factor?
I have a picture. I don't know. This is Peter Max. Peter Max is a Manhattan American graphic artist responsible for a large part of the 1960s psychedelic.
He's responsible for a large part of the 1960s. He just looks like. Anyway,
a large part of the 1960s psychedelic design movement. And he's also not really a car guy, but he gained fame for his cosmic 60s style and his use of vibrant color, and has painted everything from a Boeing 777 to Dale Earnhardt's NASCAR Monte Carlo. So he was a pretty well-known and well-off artist at the time in Manhattan.
I have never heard of him.
He gives Dennis a call. He says, hey, I'm interested in these cars. And the reason he's interested in these cars is because, as Peter Max explains it, quote, I'm not a car guy. I never drive. But the morning after the VH1 giveaway, Max is awakened by a phone call from his friend, advising him that the cars had been given to a carpenter from Long Island. After hanging up the phone, the artist reportedly drifted back asleep, only to have a vivid dream of the Corvettes driving onto a football field with a cheerleader sitting on top each one, with a man behind Max eating a hot dog with yellow mustard, and a stadium full of people yelling, quote, "They're Peter Max's cars!" and this is, he wakes up and he's like, this is my calling.
Okay, was he...
I need these cars. I need people yelling, those are Peter Max's cars.
Okay, I need to know, was this such a huge contest that friends were just calling friends, or did he enter the contest? Do you know what I mean? Like, why did somebody call and tell him who won the cars?
I don't know.
Was it like that big of a deal? Okay.
But in any case, he has this, prophetic dream. He thinks, I need these cars. And so because what he wants to do,
does he want to paint the cars?
he wants to paint the cars.
Oh, boy.
He wants to paint them all in bold psychedelic colors. And this is going to be his Magna Carta psychedelic movement.
Can you go back to the photo
decades.
of him, or is it too late?
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
So he arranges a meeting, and they start talking price, and it ends up with Max buying the cars. Armadillo agrees to sell the cars to Peter Max for $250,000 in cash, plus $250,000 in Peter Max's artwork, which presumably appreciates over time. Also, in the agreement, if Max sells the cars at a future date, or any project he does with them, Armadillo will get a portion of the proceeds up to a cap of $1 million.
Wow.
So it's not a bad deal. And I don't know Peter Max, but I assume he's a pretty rich artist if he has this kind of he has a dream and now he's spending $500,000,
Yeah.
So he buys the cars. But as it turns out, he never ended up painting any of them. He has them brought to a garage, a parking garage, and they sit there for a while. He moves them to another garage. He's kind of moving them all around New York to different parking garages where they're taking up entire levels. It's 36 fucking cars, and eventually he gets in trouble with the IRS, who charge him with failing to report more than $1 million of art sales. He would go on to plead guilty, and it was sentenced to 2 months in prison and a $30,000 fine. So these cars kind of get shifted around, and they end up in a garage where they just get forgotten about, essentially. They're not busted or broken, but they're just completely abandoned, and I have pictures of them. This is a slideshow. They're not well taken care of, as you can see.
Oh my God.
And apparently, as cool as these cars might have been,
they're just filled with dirt.
Yeah, they
Wow.
Apparently, as cool as these cars might have been, the people who lived around this parking garage were real pissed off because there was parking spaces are not cheap in New York, and there was some fucking asshole storing 36 Corvettes in their parking garage. But it does end up getting the attention of some New York real estate moguls, particularly the Hellers family and the Spindlers family. They're two. I think they own parking garages, which is how they. But they own property in New York.
Yeah, I was wondering how
they came to know about these cars. And one of these, or both of these real estate moguls, they convinced Max to sell them 25 years later. They never disclosed the price, but they did get the cars. And so these cars they bought, they end up on a History Channel special called Lost Corvettes. And the History Channel also commissioned this guy, Chris Mazzilli, this Corvette collector and the founder of the Dream Car Consulting Foundation, to lead a project in which they're going to restore all these cars.
Probably better to the condition that the original guy.
Very likely, yeah. I think the original guy was just a TV producer who was like, oh my God, I get to drive a different Corvette every night, until this sweepstakes, shit.
Yeah, and they were just drivable cars. They weren't mint.
Yeah, give me the automatic. I'm not here for it. I'm not I'm not gonna purity test these. I just
Right.
gotta rip it down the strip. So they get this guy Chris Mazzilli, this car collector, to lead a project to restore them all, including they design a version of what the 1983 Corvette would have looked like, the one that was never made. It turns out it looks a lot like an 82 Corvette and an 84 Corvette. Sorry, Corvette fans, car guys.
Yeah. I mean, also, I don't care much for Corvettes in any... Maybe like the ones from the 50s and 60s.
Well, then you might not be interested in the sweepstakes I have for you. Mazzilli and the two New York City real estate families, the Hellers and the Spindlers, have formed an organization called Corvette Heroes. Later this summer, the group plans to give away the cars
to different people, right?
One by one in a national sweepstakes to 36 different people. But these cars will be gifted in a sweepstakes for a second time. If you want to enter, one ticket is $3. The drawing happens in April, the end of April. You can go to CorvetteHeroes.com.
Corvette Heroes. This sounds like it's some sort of amazing charity or something.
I believe it. I don't have it. If I cared more, I would have written down the name of the charity, and I didn't. But it is going towards charity.
Okay. Corvette.
Yeah,
I mean,
like
people who can't afford...
don't have Corvettes, yeah, they just give money to...
Or people who can't afford to restore their Corvettes. It's like...
Corvette Heroes.
Wow.
Oh, I'm being mugged. Somebody help me. Why don't you give that woman's purse back? Whoa! It's the Corvette Hero. Is that an 83? I didn't think it existed.
Another
Dun,
robbery.
dun,
Another robber distracted by the mythical 83 Corvette.
To the parking garage. I'll see you in 25 years. So yeah, these cars bought by a rich artist left to rot for 25 years in a parking garage in New York have been found and restored and are being sweepstaked again. And this is actually a recent story that you or any listeners can buy tickets for, and you can get yourself... Look, yeah, I'm not a Corvette guy, but I'm assuming, like you want the 53 or something, or the 50s. I bet there's a year that's that's the good one. That's the one you want. And then there's like a 75 that's like, oh, shit. Like, could have saved $3.
Or like the ones from the 80s just got like, I don't know. I have a good friend from high school whose dad has a Corvette now, of course. And he's just obnoxious with it. And it's just not a good looking car. And he's got a name for it. I can't remember what it is, but it's all just a little bit too much. And also, I just don't like the look of it. I have like an aversion to that 80s aesthetic. There's just a certain...
That T-top?
Yeah. There's an aesthetic that I don't like. I'm
a Corvette hero.
Okay, I'm going to tell you about...
Boy, all right. Hairpin turn. Okay.
Well, what? You want to dwell on this for another 5 minutes and have it be a long and awkward transition to something else? Or you want me to take charge of the situation?
Here.
Yeah, say. It's about time to get done having the spotlight on you, say.
I just wanted to end with the only, I guess, winner in this, other than the 36 people who will get the cars that got dusted properly.
Yeah, who is
Dennis Armadeo, who got $250,000 in cash and $250,000 in artwork, which might not be worth what he thought it might be. By the way, Peter Max, his life is not in a good place now. Presumably out of prison, but his wife and his kids are in some custody battle over his estate.
Oh no!
I think his wife committed suicide this last summer. Peter Max himself has pretty serious Alzheimer's.
He's got 52,000 fans on Facebook. That's got to be him, right? Look at that.
That looks like it, yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
but he's got bad also. I'm going to like his page. Come on.
Yeah, he's in a pretty bad place now, so I don't...
Oh. Merry Christmas week, friends. Wishing you peace, love, laughs, safe travels, and good times with family and friends. Happy Thanksgiving, friends. Grateful to all of our veterans. Thank you. Thank you for our service.
It's Peter Max's car! Peter Max's car!
I mean, bless his wife, because if you said to me, I have to get 36 Corvettes and have a cheerleader on each of them and have a stadium of people yelling that this is my car, I'd be like...
Do I need to remind you what he looks like? I feel like... That's not the most ridiculous thing your husband Peter Max has requested.
Yeah. True enough.
Okay. Tell me something sad and gory.
I'm not going to tell you something terrible. Well, there's some sadness, but this isn't so much about murder as it is about a curiosity, which I also like curiosities. I like little odd things. We have this knick-knack shelf filled with weird little things. I'm going to tell you about frozen Charlottes.
Frozen Charlottes.
Yeah.
This isn't a cocktail sex position. Okay.
No, you're not going to get to. You're not going. This isn't your other podcast.
Charlotte.
Yeah, this isn't Wisconsin Bound. You don't get to talk about the Urban Dictionary on here. You can save that weird talk for your brother. Okay. I'm going to just start with a little tale. We're going to go back in time. Back to a time I hate. We're going back to the 1800s. My least favorite time period that there ever was. Charlotte's mother pleaded, "Now, daughter, dear, put this blanket around you, for it's a dreadful night, and you'll catch your death of cold. Just ride this wave, okay?"
Okay.
Charlotte responded, "Nay, mother, nay. To ride in blankets muffled up, I never would be seen." Her beau, Charles, retrieved another blanket from inside his sleigh and implored, "Please, Charlotte, wrap yourself with this." Charlotte rolled her eyes and said, "I smell like a horse. By the time I'd reach the ball, if I use your old carriage blanket to keep warm, my silk cloak is quite enough." The story of Frozen Charlotte is a folk tale from the 19th century about a vain young woman who froze to death while traveling to New York for a ball in an open sleigh. The weather was bitterly cold that evening, and despite warnings from her mother to dress warmly, Charlotte preferred to show off her beautiful gown during the ride to the ball.
Yeah. Here.
It's like every sixth
Traveling
grader.
to the countryside at night, you want.
So, this is...
Is that Charlotte? Oh, she's in a horse blanket. Go back inside, everybody.
And when I was doing this story, I kept thinking of the band Good Charlotte, but all I could think of were Panic at the Disco songs, and I couldn't think of one Good Charlotte song. What's one? Can you say one that's popular?
This is called the anthem. Don't wanna be you. Don't wanna be just like you. Oh, what I'm saying, this is the anthem. Throw all your hands up. You don't wanna be you. And it's like kids in empty pools on skateboards, you know. Losers unite.
Is there another Good Charlotte song that you could maybe?
There's a lot.
There's one. Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous.
Yeah.
But all I've had in my head is "What a Beautiful Wedding," which is Panic at the Disco, right?
That would really hurt Billy Joel's feelings if you heard you say that.
I have a friend who...
Also, the other brother who's in the band and people don't know his name because he's not as cool.
Billy Joel? Have you been saying Billy Joel?
Is that not his name?
From Good Charlotte?
There's Billy Joel, and then there's Billy Joel.
There's two Billy Joels?
Well, you got the Good Charlotte page up. There's
I
Billy
know,
Joel, but then there's the two brothers in Good Charlotte, and I think one of them is named Billy Joel, and he's the famous one. And then there's the other one who
it's like the
looks
Wahlbergs.
exactly the same, but he doesn't have the right tattoos or didn't date Avril Lavigne or something like.
Oh, did somebody in Good Charlotte date Avril Lavigne?
No, I don't. I think that was the lead singer, Sum 41. It's semantics, but I bet that's why.
Oh my God. What an interesting little world you've been a part of. The Avril Lavigne song, With You. Like, I had a hard time at work today. It's just the music was...
Billy Martin. Sorry.
You were... You've got to leave a lot of this in here. You were saying like right. Billy Joel, and I can speak Billy Joel.
No, sorry. Oh my god, I'm so fucking off.
Okay.
Yeah, it goes without saying I was wrong about Billy Joel.
It goes without saying.
Billy Martin, also not the important one. He plays keyboard. Fuck him. He looks like all the other ones, so that's why I got confused.
Did they have like hair that you had to push to the side?
Yeah. The brothers are Joel Madden and Benji Madden.
Oh. One of them was married to Hillary Duff, I think.
Hillary, yeah, that's Joel Madden.
Okay, God.
They broke up in 2006, so.
Wow. Well, my roommate, or not roommate. I'm a little drunk.
Benji's Joel's. Oh my god!
You cut out.
Joel's wiki just talks about Benji. So poor Joel. Benji is married to Cameron Diaz, and then as a way to save face in this Wikipedia article.
Wait a minute. The one that wasn't married to Hillary Duff is married to Cameron Diaz.
The one that didn't marry Hillary Duff is married to Cameron Diaz, correct.
Okay.
And then in this wiki, because they felt like they were talking too much about Benji, they come back to Joel to say, "Men has a trademark habit of chewing toothpicks." So he's an interesting guy too. Benji is dating Cameron Diaz and Joel chews toothpicks.
Okay. Let's get back to Frozen Charlotte. This is a good story I'm doing.
Okay. Oh, we got really sidetracked. So the Frozen
Charlotte. Yeah.
By the way, I bet anybody at a ball in the 1800s probably smells like a horse blanket. So
I think people were so gross. I have no clue how anyone got pregnant. Anyway, a ballad titled Fair Charlotte and a poem by Seba Smith called A Corpse Going to a Ball helped spread the story of unfortunate Charlotte during the 19th century. The origin of the story was a New York Observer article published on February 8th, 1840, that described a woman who froze to death while traveling 20 miles in a sleigh to a New Year's ball. The story of Frozen Charlotte quickly captured the imagination of the American people because it carried two important messages. Listen to your mother.
Sure.
And don't be vain. The story was so popular that when porcelain bath dolls were introduced into the United States from Germany during the mid-1800s, they were dubbed Frozen Charlottes because they resembled small white corpses. The male versions were dubbed Frozen Charlies. Here's a Frozen Charlotte. And I'll post photos.
Wait, is this a porcelain doll? Or
yeah,
is this...
they're these weird little white dolls. They're like little, and often people will find them now like broken. You know, you'll find like pieces of one.
But those are dolls made like they didn't have better doll making technique. They weren't right. making Frozen Charlotte specifically. They
made these little dolls,
like frozen little girls.
They resembled small white corpses, and so they decided to call them Frozen Charlottes because so the dolls were produced and look like small white corpses.
Yeah, you know, the old lesson, listen to your mother. Obviously, that's the first lesson. And did it say how far she was traveling?
20 miles.
I guess by horse, that's like 4 days, right?
Yeah. So these dolls sold exceptionally well. Apparently, a product associated with a frozen corpse is not bad marketing when the corpse is as popular as Charlotte. Some of the dolls were even sold in caskets and baked into cakes. Whoever received the slice of cake with frozen Charlotte inside received good luck or special favors.
Blanket, yeah.
The cake
just lectured by their mother at the dinner table.
The cake tradition continues today with plastic dolls, okay, like the king's cakes, stuff like that. There's debate about the exact timing the dolls were dubbed Frozen Charlotte. While it's widely believed the name association occurred in the 19th century, there is research that suggests it may have occurred in the 20th century. The popularity of Frozen Charlotte dolls lasted for decades but slowly faded during the early 20th century. Many different sizes and styles of the dolls exist. Some have paint and clothing, but most don't. The classic Frozen Charlotte doll is nude, manufactured in one piece with arms and legs molded to the body. And because the dolls were made of porcelain, they survive the elements. So if you're on a hike and notice a small white face peering up, like this one,
oh
people the whole reason...
These are people doing it intentionally, right? They're leaving little Frozen Charlottes?
No.
How the fuck does a little porcelain doll get half buried under leaves?
So if you're on a hike and notice a small white face peering up through the dirt or sand, stop and check it out. It might be a Frozen Charlotte lost by a child over a century ago.
Real frozen little girl.
They're okay. The whole reason.
Me and my buddy were out hiking and we spotted ourselves a Frozen Charlotte. We thought we gotta collect this one. 'Cause we're Frozen Charlotte collectors. Frozen Charlies too, but to a lesser extent. And we dug it up and wouldn't you know it, it was a vain little girl who didn't listen to her mother. Dead.
I almost wanted to talk about a dead little vain boy this week, but I'm saving that for next week. So what happened was I'm in this Facebook group for people who find weird secondhand items or just curious items, whatever. What happens is a lot of times farmers or people that buy properties with lots of land that has sort of been left untended will dig it up to plant flowers, or they'll start to farm it and they will unearth one of these Frozen Charlotte dolls. And somebody had one that was a headless Frozen Charlotte, because that happens a lot because they are made of porcelain. So that
happens a lot.
And
why are they getting buried? You keep passing over it like it's normal. Like, oh, you got a little porcelain doll. It ends up half buried in the woods. You know how it goes.
I guess it's from a long time ago. And if they were buried with people or if they were in a house in the 1800s.
So there's probably a real body underneath the Frozen Charlotte.
There could be a real body or maybe like a house burned.
The flowers are growing great in this one spot. I don't know why.
Oh, look at the cat. So good. Or you just think of the 1800s and you think like, I don't know, maybe the people in the 1800s had dumps and like they were just like, hey, throw your old dolls in this.
Yeah, they didn't have everything else was biodegradable, but just so many porcelain dolls.
There are multiple versions of the story about Frozen Charlotte that have been published over the years. All right, so here's...
Give me like a modern... Do you have a modern version that's like...
yes.
Like, Mom, I want to go to the club.
Oh.
Char, I told you. Like...
This is one that the Washington Post wrote. Okay?
Okay.
Charlotte was a beautiful young woman who could not walk past a mirror without stopping to admire herself. She favored dresses that were low cut so she could show off her lovely neck and shoulders, and she always enjoyed being seen by others to bask in the compliments about her beauty that often followed. She grew up in a wealthy family, an only child with a father who could afford to spoil her, and she took full advantage of his generosity by filling her wardrobe with fine dresses and accessories. New Year's Day, 1840, was approaching, and Charlotte was excited about the upcoming ball. She picked out a gorgeous gown to wear, quite certain that no other woman would be her equal that evening. She planned to capture everyone's attention as the belle of the ball. Her beau, Charles, was scheduled to pick her up in his horse-drawn sleigh to escort her to the event, which was located in a nearby New England village.
Oh, so that's where Charles comes from.
Charlie.
Bo, the guy offering the horse blanket, she says
Charlie.
no, and he's like, oh, God damn it. Like, this is what I got to do to take a girl to the ball?
Yeah, this is about consent. If I say no to a blanket, you respect it.
Charlie says, I also say no to a blanket.
Oh, God.
I'm not going to dance with you if you wear that blanket, Charlie. I'm not going to be in your arm if you smell like a horse.
So
it's Horse Charlie coming in here with his low-cut dress girl. No, we're going to get laughed at. We're going to get laughed at by the higher-ups. The upper crust. Who came in on a hot air balloon, probably, just to avoid the smell of poor horse people. Here we are, Charlie and Charlotte. Couple of dirty horse people. Came 20 miles out of town. Just smelled like horse shit to go to this ball.
But when Charles arrived, the weather had turned very cold and windy. Snow filled the air, and he was bundled up with warm clothing for the trip. So Charlotte greets him at the door, and she doesn't have a coat on.
She's got that short dress on.
I'm
the
already.
One her mom hates.
She's got that November rain wedding dress on. For those of you of a certain age. So I'm kind of
I'd love to come with you, Charles. Lead me to the carriage. You're not going out like that. You'll freeze to death. It's 20 miles.
Charlotte greeted Charles at his sleigh without a coat. Surprised, Charles asked her, what am I supposed to do? I gotta try and finish my story.
Yeah, I mean, he's concerned, but also, like, he can see those shoulders, and that's doing something for him, so.
Surprised, Charles asked her to cover up with something warm, but Charlotte refused. She wanted everyone to admire her beautiful gown on the way to the ball. Like the people on the side of the path through the woods. Like, she's like fucking Snow White. Like, who's gonna see her? I mean, is there like a greeting party waiting for her to come? She steps into the sleigh and insists they leave immediately for the ball. Charles agrees. Like, what else are they going to do?
He's going to take her to the root beer stand, I guess. Whip those horses. Let's get to the ball as fast as possible. No coat. You're fine. All right, let's go. Like, oh, boy.
Well, halfway through the trip, Charles notices Charlotte was
trying to do some necking.
Well, he's got to drive this thing, okay, with the horses. He's got to navigate it. He notices she's slumped over and shivering. He said, such a cold and blustery night like this I have never seen. I can barely hold the reins.
I bet you feel stupid.
Charlotte responded faintly, I am exceedingly cold. There were 5 miles left in the trip, so Charles urges his horse to go faster.
That's going to be our episode title. Exceedingly cold.
When they get to the ball, Charles gets around the sleigh.
He offers his hand, and
he goes around
and one solid icicle just slides out the side.
He offers his hand and his icicle dick to help her down.
Let's get inside. My dick is a fucking frozen Charlotte right now, if you know what I'm saying.
He's been getting a frozen Charlotte from her because she's not.
You've been real quiet the last 15 miles.
So he offers his hand. Charlotte doesn't move. He grabs her hand and he finds it stiff and cold. Charles quickly carried Charlotte into the hall and laid her down on the ballroom floor.
she shatters like a Sub-Zero fatality.
Like a porcelain doll.
Oh, no.
Charlotte was motionless and did not utter a word. It soon became apparent to all who watched that she would never utter another word, because no amount of warming could bring life back into her frozen body.
Why didn't you give her a coat, Charles?
In the end, Charlotte's hope to capture everyone's attention that evening did come true, but instead of being belle of the ball as she planned, everyone stared down at frozen Charlotte, the corpse of the ball. In the weeks that followed, Charles was overwhelmed with tremendous grief, knowing that the love of his life and intended bride, probably they went on one date, and that's how it went back then. It was like, I've never had sex.
If I get her to this ball, I'm in.
Yeah, like, you basically had to get married, you know. I mean, I think even that's why my parents got married. It's like, I'm dating somebody and want to sleep with them.
Took me to a ball.
In the weeks that followed...
what? This isn't a real story.
Charles dies of a broken heart.
Okay. That makes more sense.
Charles and Charlotte were reunited once again.
Just looking at that fur coat he had in his trunk. Why did you put it on? Why?
They were buried side by side in their village cemetery. So, the author of the story, like, is an avid hiker. These are legitimately the frozen Charlottes he's found over his lifetime. I mean, there are actual news stories that came out, but it's not for sure, you know, like...
Can you do a quick impression of one of those news stories when they find a frozen Charlotte?
Like if they find... Like a doll one or the real one?
Breaking news here. We go to a body found in the Wisconsin foothills. We go to Jodie Arnold for the report. Jodie?
Oh, it's Wisconsin. Yeah, so I was sitting around my house, and I'm a freelance journalist, and I get this call. Turns out that there's some gal who went to a ball, was wearing a jacket, and now she's dead.
Fantastic. Now for sports.
So there's a chance that this story could be true in some regard. And the idea of the frozen Charlotte is like the original broken girl syndrome. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, what is it? Like, do you know, what is it about, like, majorly damaged and whatever? And, like, I don't know if guys just feel like, I'm going to fix you, or, look at her, you know, there's all these songs about this broken thing, and I'm going to put you back together and whatever. That's it. That's this weird history of being obsessed with women who are, like, broken.
I do like the idea of that this is what a 19th century broken woman looks like, is like, she's so cold, but she won't take the blanket. Like, I have to have her.
Yeah. Yeah. But I just realized that the idea of a frozen Charlotte has persisted. I get subjected to a lot of, like, bad music depending on the day. And a lot of it has to do with women who are, like, you know, sad and like, oh, I'm going to help you. And there's this weird thing where, like, guys have this weird thing about women, like, who are crazy or have tried to do things to themselves. So the frozen Charlotte persists. You've been listening to Cool and Unusual Punishment. You can find us on iTunes. You should rate us and review us. We have a website, coolandunusualpunishment.com.
We have an email address, mail@coolandunusualpunishment.com, that you can send your cold Charlotte stories to.
Yeah, if you found one, I'd like to hear about it. I'm going to share pictures of them. They're like weird little bisque dolls.
Or just your favorite Good Charlotte lyrics.
Yeah. Or, you know.
If you have an 83 Corvette, which is the one that is invented by this foundation, send a picture. Get your entries in now at CorvetteHeroes.com. $3 a ticket. Next week, we're all going to learn how to juggle.
On next week's show, I'm going to talk about a pretentious little dead boy that nobody ever figured out what his deal is.
A hot Bobby.
It's going to be a hot Bobby. Stay cool.
Bye.